What is going on, everybody? Depraved Slasher, and we are back with the tier series. We haven't done the tier series video in a long... We haven't done a tier series video in a long time. And what better thing can I do? The last one we did, I believe, was on my favorite video game franchise, which was Assassin's Creed. Now we're going to do it on my favorite horror movie franchise, which is Nightmare on Elm Street. So a lot of you guys may be thinking, Depraved, you aren't really a Freddy Krueger fan. Bitch, I've been Freddy Krueger for Halloween probably most of my life. That's no lie either. I always have to buy new gloves, though, because the gloves that they sell in fucking Halloween stores are fucking flimsy and they're just shit. Actually, I eventually want to get me like an authentic pair of Freddy gloves that you can buy online with like sharp actual knives, and not to use, guys, I'm not fucking psycho. But I would love to have it as like decoration, put it in like a display case. I think that'd be pretty fucking dope. But anyways, so Nightmare on Elm Street is my favorite series. Combined, I've probably seen each movie individually no less than 15 to 20 times. That even includes the newest one, the remake, which a lot of people didn't like. We'll get to that in a little bit. But I'm just saying that's a minimum. The movie I've probably seen the most, which is my favorite movie in the series, is Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors. I've probably seen close to 200 to 300 times, somewhere within that range. I have spent a lot of time watching Nightmare on Elm Street. And a lot of you guys are probably wondering what turns me on to Nightmare on Elm Street so much. Well, first off, it was the first slasher flick I was introduced to as a kid. My mom started me off watching horror movies very young. She instilled in me as a kid, it's fake, that, you know, these are actors just portraying the parts, and I understood that, so it didn't scare me. And even to this day, I've yet to see a horror movie that's actually frightened me. For the most part, and I mean actually terrified, frightened. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong, all of us get cheap jump scares in horror movies. It happens. As a matter of fact, there's one in Wes Craven's New Nightmare that scared the shit out of me. Not only in the trailer when the movie came out, but also in the actual movie. We'll get to that in a little bit too. But anyways, Nightmare on Elm Street, what I love so much about it, like I said, it's the very first slasher flick, you know, that I was introduced to. Robert Englund does a knockout job playing Freddy Krueger. I still personally believe Jackie Earle Haley played the character well. I don't know why he gets hated on so much for his role in the remake. Dude's a talented actor, and he killed the part. The problem with that movie was the writing. Again, we'll get to that later. But no, one of the things I loved about him so much is the thought of being able to stalk people in their dreams and them not being able to do anything about it. And regardless of how they kill you off, because you're a dream demon, you can always come back, right? That's what's always intrigued me the most. Second most is definitely further on in the series, the humor that he brought along with it, because in my opinion, somebody that's making fun of you as they're stalking you and as they're going to kill you is far more scary than just somebody who's quiet. Because quiet, yes, they can sneak up on you, but if somebody's so confident in what they're doing that they can talk shit to you, to me, that's just a little more freaky, right? So the way we're going to do this, we're going to talk a little bit about each movie. I'm going to try not to go into too much detail with all of it. But we're going to rank them in the order that they were released. When I actually pulled up this list, they had it all out of whack. I had to put it all in order so that we could get everything straight. And sorry if my camera just shook. I just shook the table. But let's go ahead and jump into this, starting off with the very first Nightmare on Elm Street. So the very first Nightmare on Elm Street was made in 1985. Is going to be the only one I'm going to have the date on you for. And why do I know it was 1985? Because that was the year I was born. So yes, the very first Nightmare on Elm Street came out the year I was born. It was very well done on a very low budget. The practical effects in the movie were just out fucking standing. And I always judge a movie based on three things when it comes to horror, right? And everybody has their own criteria that they look for, right? This is just my criteria. So there are three things that I look for in a movie: story, acting, and gore, right? And for me, if it has at least two of those three things, then to me it's a good horror movie. And I mean good acting. I don't mean like bad acting. Now don't get me wrong, there are some movies that are just so bad that they're good. But for the most part, in horror movies, those are the three things that I look for. And Nightmare on Elm Street 1 definitely had very good acting, had very good gore and the special effects that they used. Um, which I guess gore and special effects kind of go hand in hand with each other. And the story, it introduced us to Freddy Krueger. What more can I say? Everything from the dragging a girl across the ceiling, which for whatever reason I can't remember her fucking name now. I'll remember it later, which will irritate the fuck out of me. To her boyfriend Tina. There we go. Dragging Tina across the ceiling to Rod, being accused of it even though it wasn't him, and just to turn around and get hung in his cell and made it look like a suicide. And then, you know, Nancy's mom being killed the way she did at the end of the movie was actually very cheesy. That's probably my least favorite kill in the entire fucking series. Well, okay, so she died twice, technically, right? Because she actually died on the bed at the end of the first movie, and then in Nancy's dream, she got drugged through the window. Whatever. And then who was the other person that... Oh, yeah, her boyfriend that got pulled into the bed, and the way they did the whole thing... Like, they actually had a rotating room that they flipped upside down and had all the blood spill out. And actually, if you watch it, you can see the blood run down the walls in a weird way, which shows that it was turned the way that it was. But regardless, amazing effects. This is where they introduce him. And now, he was originally supposed to be portrayed as a child molester, but at the time there were some major child molestation cases going on, so they changed it to a child murderer kind of last second, which I think actually fit the series a little more and made people not hate Freddy as much. But man, just an amazing movie. Now, I'm not going to put it in S tier. I'm going to put it in A tier. Just because I think there were better movies, okay? There were better movies in the series. This is one of 3 movies Wes Craven was a part of in the entire series. He introduced the character. The Nightmare on Elm Street, or New Line Cinema, went on to do some other things with other directors. Wes Craven came back for 3, disappeared again, came back for New Nightmare. Rest in peace, Wes Craven. But yes, I placed the first Nightmare on Elm Street in the A tier. Again, I would put it in S tier, but like I said, I think there are a movie or 2 that I think are better than this one, and we'll get to those shortly. Next up is Nightmare on Elm Street 2. Nightmare on Elm Street 2 it's a different Freddy movie, okay? Because to be 100% honest, it's really hard to make heads or tails of what really happened in that movie. Oh, and one of the things I wanted to bring back before we jump into that, one of the things I want to bring back about Nightmare on Elm Street, one of the ways, the way Freddy dies in that movie was kind of ingenious first time. Like, you find out Nancy can pull stuff from her dreams when it involves the dreams with him. So she goes to sleep, pulls him, like booby trap, or first she booby traps the house, falls asleep, pulls him out of the dream. He runs into all the booby traps in the house, and then she eventually kills him. But the way she kills him is weird, because like he disappears, and then when he's about to attack her in her mom's room, she turns her back on him and says, you don't have any power over me. And as he goes to lunge in for that final kill, he just disappears. So, yeah, a little weird, a little iffy. I actually like the way they did Freddy's Dead a little bit more in terms of pulling him out and what they did there, but we'll get to that in a little bit. Now, back to Freddy 2, Freddy's Revenge. Freddy's Revenge was, like I said, a very different movie. It is definitely a movie with the highest kill count that Freddy gets, just because of the pool party scene. We'll talk about that in a second. But, so throughout the movie, Jesse, the main character, is turning into Freddy, because him and his family moved into the Elm Street house, 1428 Elm Street. And they move into the Elm Street house. He finds Nancy's diary up in his closet and starts to kind of read it, and reads about Freddy, which is what instills the idea of Freddy in his head and how Freddy is able to come through. Now, the problem I have with this is throughout most of the movie, Freddy is like taking over and coming out of Jesse's body. And it's confusing because every time he gets a kill, people see him as Jesse, but you're seeing it as Freddy. And there's even a part where he cuts himself completely out of Jesse's body to go on his killing spree, and it just doesn't make any sense. It is very confusing, and like, one of the reasons why this movie is definitely hated on, and I think it is a stupid reason that the movie is hated on, is it has some very homoerotic undertones to it. And what I mean by that is Jesse is obviously a very flamboyant character, even though he has this girl that is kind of with him in the movie. You could tell he's probably a little gayer than what they lead on. And his teacher is definitely gay, and Jesse actually at one night finds himself in a gay bar and finds his teacher there. But then his teacher takes him back to the high school and makes him run laps around the gym for being at a gay bar, which is totally not something that would happen, let alone be able to legally happen. And then to top it off, then the gym teacher gets killed by being strung up in the showers by some towels or by some jump ropes and then being whipped to death with towels. Like I said, just very homoerotic, which was a huge turnoff for a lot of people. I actually thought it added a little bit more interesting stuff to the movie itself. But no, it was still a very good movie. Will I come out and say I think it's the worst in the series? I do still think it's the worst in the series, personally, for me. I know a lot of you guys are probably definitely going to hold the remake to that standard for you. But another one of my complaints is this movie was barely an hour long. It was a very short Nightmare on Elm Street movie compared to all the others in the series. And like I said, his biggest kill scene was all of the pool party when he cuts himself out of Jesse's body and then goes on his killing spree in the pool, and he's like killing people. There's fire coming up, and he gets a shit ton of kills in it. But no, I do think it's the worst in the series, and I say that, and I'm going to place it in C, okay? Which means I don't think there's any terrible movies. I just think this is the worst one in the series. Again, I do still like the movie, and I still have seen it a lot. But just in terms of the overall story, it was a little lackluster and a little confusing, and I think very poorly thought out. But yeah. So then we're going to come to my favorite Nightmare on Elm Street of all time. This is Wes Craven's return to directing the series. This is Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors. It takes place mostly in an asylum for children that are all having issues, and they're supposed to be the last of the Elm Street children, right? Which we hear about this a lot over the course of the next 2 movies. But they're like the last of the Elm Street children. They're all going crazy. They're all having these delusional nightmares. Turns out Nancy comes back from the first movie to help mentor these kids and try and get them back in shape. None of the staff believes that they're all having issues with this dream demon with these finger knives. They introduced the character Kristen Parker, and so the whole plot of this movie is all these kids are able to have, Nancy teaches them they're all able to have these like special abilities in their dreams, and it's the special abilities that they would want in real life. And like Kristen Parker's special ability is she's able to pull people into her dreams. The very first time she does it, she pulls Nancy into her dream. And Nancy goes to her house, finds that, you know, the popsicle stick made version of her home, and then like goes back and confronts Kristen about it. Turns out that, you know, she knows what's going on. None of the other hospital staff will believe her until finally the doctor that likes Nancy eventually starts to believe her. But he also finds out she's on Hypnosil, which that comes back later, which I thought that was cool when Freddy vs. Jason came out, that they were trying to give people Hypnosil. But that's like I said, further down the line. Hypnosil is a drug that they try to use in order to suppress dreams so you don't have dreams, which if you can't have dreams, Freddy can't do anything to you. So this is the first movie where Freddy is full of a bunch of jokes, which is another reason I think I really enjoy the movie. Like when he kills old girl in the waiting room and he grabs her, like she wants to be a movie star, and she's sitting there and she's staring at the TV, and all of a sudden it shows I think it's the Johnny Carson show, and he's interviewing Zsa Zsa Gabor, and all of a sudden Freddy comes up and cuts Zsa Zsa Gabor's head off. Those of you that don't know who Zsa Zsa Gabor is, look it up. She's an old actress. I'm pretty sure she's passed away now, but very, very famous actress at the time. And So she walks up to the TV confused. Freddy's head pops out of the top of the TV, which means she's fallen asleep. And his hands come out of the side, and he grabs her by the arms, and he picks her up, and he says my favorite line ever in a Nightmare on Elm Street movie. He says, "Welcome to primetime, bitch." And then he slams her head into the TV. And, of course, this is what always cracked me up. There is no way a person of her size and stature is going to be able to run fast enough and jump high enough to run her head through the TV, but they all still consider it a suicide. And on top of it, some of the other kills that happen in the movie, like there's the one where in the beginning, the dude that likes to build puppets, he becomes Freddy's puppet. Like his tendons get pulled out of his body, and he's like walking through the hospital as a marionette that Freddy has on his strings, and like actually walks up invisible stairs and gets into an area that is actually completely locked off, and jumps off, and still people are like, "Oh, he committed suicide." But it's like, how could he get up there to commit suicide? Logically thinking, if these adults would think instead of just trying to dismiss what the kids are saying they're going through. They don't think about it. So he looks like he committed suicide. Oh, girl's head goes to the TV. She looks like she committed suicide. So then they all get to go and experience their dreams together and start to figure out what their powers are. You've got Kincaid, who's the big black guy. And, of course, his the super strength because he's just a big dude. And, he's like the troublemaker of the group as well. And then you've got the girl, which I can't remember her name, but she's an ex-drug addict. She was big into heroin. And she's all, her thing is being beautiful and bad. And, she's got this, like, mohawk and black leather clothing with switch knives. And she's able to do flips and shit like that. And then you've got Kristen, who can drag people in, but she's also aerobic, or acrobatic, I guess is the technical term that I should have used. And she's able to do flips and stuff. And then you've got the kid who can't walk, but in his dreams, he's able to walk. And he's also a D&D player. I say D&D because that's what the game's supposed to represent in the movie. But he's the wizard master, and he's able to cast spells and shit like that, which that comes back to bite him in the ass later, which is hilarious. And it's just a very well done movie. And the way they kill Freddy in that movie, in the background of this movie, while they're all in the final dream, Nancy's boyfriend or doctor friend who wants to be her boyfriend and her dad go to the graveyard where Freddy was originally buried. And they have to take his bones, dig him a grave, throw him in the grave, and sprinkle holy water on him in order to take him out. And there's a part where the skeleton comes to life, which I don't understand how that even fucking works. I mean, I know it's a movie, but that whole setup was a little weird for me. But the skeleton comes to life and attacks them, ends up killing Nancy's dad. And then in the dream world, Nancy's dad comes in and he's all surrounded by white light, and Nancy's like, "Dad," and he's like, I died, pumpkin. And she's all sad. She goes to hug him, and then lo and behold, it's actually Freddy, and he stabs her in the gut with the knives, finally getting the one child he missed in the end of the first movie. And it's a very sad moment that the very first couple of times I watched it made me cry. Not anymore, because I've watched it so many times. I've kind of become numb to it. But it's like the death of the main character of the series, which is funny to think of considering how long the series is, right? But she dies, and then, but at the same time, like, then he turns his, he throws her off to the side. He turns his view over to somebody else. But around the same time, like, the doctor dude sprinkles the holy water on the bones inside the grave, and all of a sudden you see the holes pop out, you see the holes pop out of Freddy, and she runs up. Nancy actually manages to get up, runs up, takes the glove, grabs Freddy's hand, sticks it into his chest, and like you see because he uses in the real world, the doctor dude uses the crucifix on Freddy's head, and then you see this cross pop up on Freddy's head. I mean, again, the special effects were amazing for its time. And but that's pretty much the way he dies, and then Nancy dies at the end. And again, it's hard to explain why it's my favorite Nightmare on Elm Street movie. Again, the jokes, the effects, the acting is top notch. This is still back when they used people that actually looked like teenagers as teenagers, and they actually found people that could act well. and it was just a great movie. So yes, you guys guessed it, it's my favorite in the series. I'm putting it in S tier. Now, we're going to go to the Nightmare on Elm Street 4, which is Dream Master. And I have some issues with Dream Master. My first being Kristen Parker is the first like actual direct sequel to come out to the previous film. And they replaced the actress that played Kristen Parker with somebody else. I can't remember who else replaced her. I don't even remember the name of the chick. It was something Arquette. Patricia Arquette, I think, played her in the third movie. And then they completely replaced her because she didn't want to come back for the role. And of course, she gets killed off. She's no longer the new main character. It's some other chick. Again, this involves being able to take control. It's almost like they tried to take the magic of Nightmare on Elm Street 3 and put it into Nightmare on Elm Street 4. Like, the kids are still able to kind of take on this new persona in their dreams. Like, one of the kids reads comic books, and he becomes a comic character, but ends up fighting like an invisible Freddy, which I thought was very cheap. But he fights him in a comic world, and like the main chick in the movie, like every time one of her friends dies, she gains their soul and gets a piece of like an item from them as they die that she's able to use in the final fight versus Freddy. I mean, there were some good one-liners again, and I don't think it's a terrible movie. I just don't think it's a great movie in the series, right? It's and the way he died in it, like she basically whoops his ass at the end in a church. Oh wait, no, the way she kills him though is she gets a piece of church or a piece of church window. And I guess if he sees himself in a mirror, or if he sees himself in a holy reflection or some crazy shit like that, like it's what kills him. And she grabs this piece of church mirror, she shows it to him, and like it kills him. It's just fucking weird. But like I said, it's still a good movie. It's probably one of my least favorite in the series. It's still one of the more better, well-produced ones. I will give it that. Is it this one or the fifth one that has the cockroach scene? One of them is fucking disgusting. Oh, now my favorite one-liner in this movie though is this African American chick who's best friends with the new main chick in the series. She's extremely smart and extremely intelligent, and she's having a dream. And Freddy becomes in the middle of class, and Freddy becomes a teacher. And he walks up to her. He's like, "So you want to suck face?" And then he fucking goes to kiss her, and then sucks the life out of her, and she shrivels up. And it's fun. It was really cool effects. I did really enjoy that. But I'm going to go ahead and put this under B. Like I said, it wasn't a terrible movie. It just wasn't a great movie. It's just kind of in the middle for me, and I think they could have done better, especially if they could have gotten Kristen Parker to come back. Kincaid dies very early in the movie because his character comes back. Joey dies early in the movie. Like, just the people that they killed off, which Joey is a character from the third one. I didn't mention him, and I do apologize for that. I probably should have. But man, it's just okay. And that's going to lead us into Nightmare on Elm Street 5 Dream Child, which in my opinion is the worst in the series. And I say that because the story has to revolve around, again, it's another direct sequel to 4. And the main chick in that one, she's got a boyfriend in it, and she's pregnant. And the whole thing about her being pregnant is Freddy is trying to invade her dreams to take over the child. Because he wants to basically reincarnate himself as a kid and come back to the actual world. Where they came up with that whole story and that whole thought process is beyond me. It doesn't really work very well. It doesn't make a whole lot of... I mean, I guess it makes a little bit of sense. Probably a little bit more sense than the last movie. The one thing I will definitely give this movie, it does have definitely one of the coolest kill scenes in the movie. And it's when I think it's her boyfriend jumps on a motorcycle and he falls asleep while on the motorcycle. And then Freddy, like, has these things that come up and grip into his hands, and it takes over his whole body, and he just becomes this like raging machine of a bike that Freddy eventually drives him off the road and kills him. Like, she ends up going into her baby's dreams to fight Freddy. Like, I don't even remember exactly how she kills Freddy exactly, because this is probably the movie I've seen the least of the entire series. It's like I said, it's in my opinion, it is the worst one in the series. I'll still watch it. I've still seen it probably 20 to 25 times. Um, but if I've watched the entire series, it's the one, along with 4, that I'm most least or that I'm most likely to just skip over and go on to the next one. So I'm going to go ahead and throw this down and see. Because, like I said, it's just not that great, right? So then the next one is Freddy's Dead. And a lot of people hated Freddy's Dead. Freddy's Dead, I actually absolutely loved. I love the idea of Elm Street being completely devoid of children, right? And Freddy no longer exists because nobody knows who Freddy is outside of Elm Street. Except for this one kid who comes from Elm Street. He spends most of the movie believing he's Freddy's son, but then Freddy reveals to him he doesn't have a son. He had a daughter, and he ends up killing that character off. Like, he was like the main character from the very beginning, and all of a sudden the main character shifts to the lady who is the teacher, or who's like she's like the main correctional officer in this place for troubled teens, and she's like the therapist there that she's trying, or she's not the therapist. She's, like I said, she's more like the corrections officer because the therapist is played by another character. But it turns out she's the actual daughter. It has one of my favorite lines in the entire series, where when she confronts Freddy about, he's only able to do stuff on Elm Street, and he holds out his arm, and he's standing at the top of these attic steps, and like the doors are flung open, and there's a storm in the background, and he holds out his arms and he says, "Every town has an Elm Street." And it's like at that moment where he's like trying to use these new teens to get his words across. Now, one of the things people seem to really dislike about this movie is a lot of people think it has one of the dumbest kills, in that there's one kid who likes to get extremely high. I don't remember what his name is off the top of my head. But he's watching this TV that doesn't work in this house, and he gets extremely high, and he finds himself as a character in a video game that Freddy's playing. And Freddy's sitting here using him as a video game character, which is probably why I like the kill so much, because I am a gamer. And he's sitting there, and he's doing this kill, and he's running this kid around the house, and of course everybody else just sees him like bouncing around, but like they don't see him as a video game character. And then like the chick finds him and comes in and kicks the controller out of his hand, and he slams the door, and he says, "That's okay, I've got a power glove." And like he's got the old school Nintendo power glove, and he starts using the power glove. Like, I found it funny. A lot of people hated the kill. Being a gamer myself, though, somebody that always wanted the Nintendo Power Glove, even though I know it probably sucked from what I've heard. It was just a fun kill for me. But the overall plot of the movie, I just really enjoyed the plot of the movie. The kills in it I thought were actually pretty good. I felt like it was more of a return to form from Freddy from 4 and 5. The way they killed him in that movie is his daughter, the character that plays his daughter, or the actor that plays his daughter, pulls him out of the dream world and actually like blows him up with dynamite. It wasn't like some crazy disappearing actor, nothing like that. They brought back the idea of bringing him back from the real world, and they destroyed him in a way that should have killed him. Again, I thought it was an amazing movie. Do I think it's S tier? No. But I would definitely put it in A for myself. Remember, guys, this is my rankings. You guys don't have to agree with what I have to say. But I definitely think it goes right up there with the original Nightmare on Elm Street for me. It was just a fun movie. Now, Wes Craven finally comes back for what I believe is probably the second best movie in the franchise. And that is Wes Craven's New Nightmare. And what he did, he brought back the lady that played Nancy Thompson, which is Heather Langenkamp. And he brought back a lot of the original cast. And the movie's kind of confusing because it starts off with like them living their regular lives as the actors, not as the characters in the Nightmare on Elm Street movies, but as the actors. Like Heather played Heather, and England played England. Wes Craven played himself, and they're all playing themselves. And the movie slowly starts to evolve into an actual movie of Nightmare on Elm Street. And Wes Craven is even like, I want to do one more movie inside the movie. And he's like, I want to know if you guys want to do it. And Heather really doesn't want to do it, but Robert's all for it. Heather's husband's working on a new Freddy glove behind her back, which ends up killing him later on. And her son is having these nightmares about Freddy Krueger because he's watching his mom's movies, and she's getting crank calls from people pretending to be Freddy. And like I said, eventually inside the movie, it evolves into the movie and even ends with Heather reading the script that she's living and following the path of sleeping pills down to get to her son. And it was just a very well done movie. It is the only movie in the whole entire franchise this day to give me a legitimate jump scare, because there's this part where they zoom in on this closet and all of a sudden Freddy just pops out of the fucking closet and he's like, "Did you miss me?" And dude, I will tell you what, to this day, no matter how many times I watch that fucking movie, the jump scare still gets me, even though I know the fucking thing's coming. The timing is just outstanding. And one of the coolest things about this movie is there's this whole thing in life about life imitating art, right? And in the movie, there was this huge earthquake in LA, which is really where they live. And at the same time, like the biggest earthquake to ever hit LA at this time, destroyed some bridges during the making of this movie. So everything, just the way everything played in together with that, and how the movie was supposed to be imitating life anyways, and life was becoming the movie. Man, just the mind fuck that this movie is worth the watch alone. Wes Craven is a fucking genius at times, and sometimes he gets things extremely wrong. But I'm putting this under S tier next to Nightmare on Elm Street 3. Again, you'll notice these are the only two movies going into S tier. Sorry to spoil the next two for you. But I just thought they were that good. Wes Craven's New Nightmare. Even if you've never seen a Nightmare on Elm Street movie, I advise watching that one if you're going to pick one to watch, because it's really just about the actors that played the roles and then eventually evolving to them being in their roles. Like, definitely check it out. An amazing movie. You don't need to know too much about the previous series to know who Freddy is and know that he's the character that built New Line Cinema. And, dude, it's just an amazing movie. Next up, we got Freddy vs. Jason. Freddy vs. Jason is one of those movies I think I enjoy, but I can openly admit it's not really that good of a movie. It was great. The build-up for it, the lead into it was Jason Goes to Hell. At the end of Jason Goes to Hell, you see Jason's mask sitting on the sand. New Line had just bought the rights to the franchise, put out Jason Goes to Hell. And like I said, Jason's mask is sitting on the sand, and then all of a sudden you see the Nightmare glove pop up out of the sand, grab the mask, and pull it under, and you hear Freddy's laugh. So at that point, everybody knew Freddy vs. Jason was coming. Now, we didn't know it was going to be called Freddy vs. Jason, or if it was going to be Jason vs. Freddy, or how they were going to do it. They could have done Nightmare on Crystal Lake. They could have done a lot of things. But they got Freddy to come. They got Robert Englund to come back and play Freddy. They got Kane Hodder to play Jason, who to this day is the... Or no, Kane Hodder didn't play Jason, did he? I don't think he did. As a matter of fact, I think he got shit on. Like, he wanted to play Jason, but they told him no. And I don't remember why. I don't remember who they got to play Jason in this movie, but whoever it was that they got to play him actually did a really good job. I'll give him that. My problem with this movie is... It is, in my opinion, the first movie in the entire series with absolutely shitty acting. And what I mean by that is Freddy did great in his part. Robert Englund has never done a bad job in his role. But this is about the time where people have started using full-blown fucking adults in their fucking late 20s as teenagers. First off, that shit don't fly. Second off, most of the acting is joke. Let's face it, Kelly Rowland was not a very good actress to begin with. And to have her play a character, have her play one of the titular teens, and just a handful of other people, it is so hard to explain why I dislike a lot of this movie. I still enjoy the movie. I don't think it's a terrible movie. I just don't think it was everything it could have been. I think they could have got some much better, more teenage-geared actors. The story is another problem I have, right? On one hand, it's cool. On the other hand, it's not. So, the whole purpose of the story is Freddy has been forgotten. all the kid in Weston Hills, I think it's Weston Hills is what it was called. I could be wrong. Um, but all the kids are being forced to take Hypnosil, which is from the third movie, so that they no longer think about Freddy. Elm Street has repopulated. They've got new teens there, but all the kids who know who Freddy is get forced to stay in the sanitarium, and they're forced to stay on Hypnosil so they don't have dreams about him. So at this point, it's acknowledged that people know who Freddy Krueger is. But at the same time, people also acknowledge they know who Jason is later on. And so there's this part where Freddy is trying to get people to remember who he is, so he raises Jason from the grave and has Jason go on this killing spree on Elm Street in hopes that people think that it's Freddy, and it sparks up a remembrance of him. And throughout most of this movie, I think Freddy only gets one teenage kill in the entire movie. Jason kills everybody else. And then to top it off, the way it ended, Jason really won the fight by cutting off Freddy's head. But then to have Freddy wink at the end of it, even though Jason was holding his head, was kind of cool. Just to show that it wasn't over. And it wasn't supposed to be. We'll get to that in a minute. But this also has one of the dumbest lines I've ever heard ever in the movie. The main female character of the entire series is sitting there, and she's like so confused and kind of half asleep, and she's like, Freddy died by fire, watered by Jason. How can we use that? What? No. That is the dumbest fucking line. But like I said, now the one thing I will praise this fucking movie for is the fight scenes between Jason and Freddy. It starts off in the dream world because the kids manage to tranquilize Jason. It starts off in the dream world and Freddy is just fucking Jason up. Bad. And then it gets to the real world and that's where Jason starts fucking Freddy up. Like there's this part where Jason drags Freddy through the walls of a fucking cabin in Crystal Lake, dude. Oh, dude, it's just such a good fucking fight scene. It's one of the better versus fight scenes I've seen. In my opinion, definitely a lot better than what AVP was able to put together for fight scenes between horror characters. But that is its one saving grace, is that one probably 25 to 30 minute fight scene that takes place in those two areas. For that alone, I'm going to go ahead and put Freddy vs. Jason. It was going to make the D column and would definitely make the worst movie in the series if it wasn't for that fight scene, in my opinion. That fight scene saved the whole movie. Again, I felt like it could have been better. It's also a huge letdown that they didn't make the sequel, which the sequel was supposed to be Freddy vs. Jason vs. Ash, which was going to bring in Ash from the Army of Darkness and Evil Dead movies. But they ended up making a comic out of it instead. And it's actually probably a good thing in the long run that they didn't make a movie out of it, because the comic was kind of iffy itself. It was a little off. I did read it. But no. I put it in the C category. Now, this is where all of you guys are going to hate me. All of you die-hard Freddy fans. I actually liked the remake. I actually liked the remake a lot. And I will tell you why. First off, let me give you the negatives. The teenage acting, again, is terrible. Minus two people who I think played their roles very well. Thankfully, they were the two main characters. I actually think the person that they got to play Nancy played that version of Nancy very well. And she was very believable as a teenager. And I also think the person they got to play Quentin, which was her love interest in this movie, also did a very good job and was a very believable teenager. As a matter of fact, Quentin is the only character, aside from Ash from Evil Dead, who actually looks like their character from the movie in Dead by Daylight. I thought Jackie Earle Haley did an amazing job as Freddy. I didn't even mind his makeup, because what they were going for was more realistic burn scars. I can understand that. I can also understand why a lot of you guys didn't like his makeup. I'm not going to hold that against you. Everyone has their opinions. It just didn't bother me. Would I have preferred for him to have the makeup like Robert Englund had? Probably, but at the same time, then he's just imitating the role in a way that somebody else did. So I understand why they went the route that they did. The script was not that great. Again, and actually I forgot about this. This is another movie that got me with a good jump scare. There's a part where Quentin and Nancy are having micro naps because they're which you can have micronaps if you're up for too long without any sleep. And it causes them to constantly shift in and out of the dream world. And there's one part where Freddy pops up out of fucking nowhere while she's walking the hall. Dude, scared the shit out of me. Very good jump scare, very unexpected. Now, my problems with the movie is, first, I didn't like how they tried to completely recreate some of the scenes from the first original movie. I actually thought they tried to make the dragging Tina across the ceiling, which I don't remember. I don't think her name was Tina in the remake. I could be wrong. But they actually tried the whole dragging her across the ceiling thing in there. And they tried to make it look more violent, and I thought it pulled away from that kill. And it was something I felt like they should have kind of left out of the movie. And then they tried to recreate the Freddy's glove coming out of the water while Nancy is taking a bath scene, which, again, I thought they did poorly. Now, a lot of people didn't like how they used so much CGI in this movie, and I can understand that, but there was one CGI moment I thought was outstanding. And there's a part where Freddy is in a classroom, and he's, like, pretending to teach, and all of a sudden the entire room turns into a cloud of ash, and everything fades in the room. And I just thought the way they did that actually looked really fucking good. Another problem I did have with Jackie Earle Haley is he is a much smaller in figure than Robert Englund, so he was a smaller Freddy. A lot of people's complaint with this movie too is, oh, they turned him into a child molester. Well, that's what he was actually supposed to be in the first place. And actually, one of the things I loved that they did in this movie is they hint he's a child molester. But then they start to pull on your heartstrings a little bit and try and be like, no, he was framed as a child molester. So then all of a sudden you're like, well, that's why he's killing all these teenagers. He's getting revenge for being set up, basically. But then it turns out he's a child molester, so it makes you feel like a fucking asshole for even having faith in him as a character. And I'm telling you what, I actually thought it was very smart how they pulled that off. A lot of people discredit it. And honestly, they're just discrediting the fact that he's a child molester. But that's what he was supposed to be in the original series. Like, Wes Craven has even come out and said that. So, like, you guys need to get over that whole fucking fact. But like I said, Jackie Earle Haley's acting was spot on. The kids that played Nancy and Quentin did really well. The rest of the teens can fucking die, which they did. I don't mean in real life, in the movie. They looked like adults playing teenagers, whereas the guys that played Nancy and Quentin actually kind of looked like teenagers. Like, they were believable teenagers. That's like Andrew Garfield. None of y'all motherfuckers believed Andrew Garfield looked like a high schooler in the Amazing Spider-Man series. That was your problem with him as fucking Spider-Man. Anyways, I digress. I thought it was a very good movie. I am going to put it, however, in B, because it does have its faults. But yeah, guys, that is my ranking, my tier ranking for the Nightmare on Elm Street series. This has run on much longer than I thought it was going to. I talked a lot more, which I guess I kind of knew I was going to be talking quite a bit for it. But yeah, guys, that is going to do it for this video. That is my rankings. Nothing goes in D column for me. I know a lot of you guys are probably like, man, a couple of those movies are bad, but I love the entire series as a whole. Even amongst its bad movies, I still enjoy the bad movies. But yes, Nightmare on Elm Street 3 and Wes Craven's New Nightmare, both directed by Wes Craven, both go in the S tier for me. The original Nightmare on Elm Street and Freddy's Dead, which was kind of the first and the last in the series, which I think is funny as how that worked, are in the A column. And then in B, you've got Nightmare on Elm Street 4. No, you got Nightmare on Elm Street. Yeah, 4. And the remake from 2012, 13, one of the, I don't fucking remember, early on in the 2010 movies. And then you've got, in the C column, you've got Nightmare on Elm Street 2, 5, and Freddy vs. Jason. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the list. Like, I know a lot of you guys are going to have different feelings on what you would rank things, where you think things should go. That's the beautiful thing about opinions and tastes and dislikes and likes. Like, everybody has their own opinions on things. Your opinion doesn't have to match mine. I'm cool with it, just like my opinion doesn't have to match yours. Most of y'all probably ain't going to be cool with it. I don't fucking care. But that is going to do it, guys. If you guys liked the video, be sure to slash that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications. Comment down below, what did you think of this T-Series video on the Nightmare on Elm Street series. Be sure to check the description below for my Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Discord, and my BitChute. Comment down below what else you would like to see me do tiers on. I know I'm also going to be recording very soon a horror video game tier list. That is going to do it for this video. As always, I love you guys. Thank you all for watching, and I cannot wait to see you depraved people later. Peace.